All right, welcome to Truth Be Told. I'm Tony Sweet. I'm here with Captain Ron, and we have a great show for you guys lined up. We have Heidi Hollis in with us. She is a radio host, she is an author, and we are going to talk about some amazing subjects. Captain Ron, the Hat Man.
Hey, it's perfect for Halloween.
I
Tony.
know it's Halloween, and we have to at least get somebody's fright up a little bit. So, and we also are going to talk about the shadow people, and I think most people are going to be really interested in this. So, Heidi, thank you so much. Oh,
It's perfect time to talk about these things, right?
for Halloweenies, we love it.
Happy Halloween from Heidi Hollis. How about that?
That's right.
Tony, I like these kind of obscure things. Everybody knows Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, those kind
Right.
of things, but a lot of people don't know about the Hat Man, for example.
Not too many.
It's a great little hidden gem. I think it's an interesting phenomenon that a lot of people have actually seen.
And I think Heidi's the one to tell us all about it. So, Heidi, please, what is the Hat Man?
Unfortunately, he is the demon of all demons.
Oh God, don't tell me that.
Really?
Yeah, he's an entity that I honestly wish I had never came across personally. He's something that is described as a man wearing a three-piece suit, a trench coat or cape, sometimes seen even having a little watch on his hip, a chained watch, and also wearing a gaucho hat, a fedora, or even a top hat.
Huh.
You say Gucci hat or no?
What?
I'm just
Fedora.
kidding.
Tony's wearing a Gucci hat
Gaucho.
right now, so it's tough.
She's like, what was that? So how did you or how did this become the term the Hat Man? Was it like legend, or was it something that you or other people just started talking about? Because like I said, growing up, I heard of ghosts and goblins and vampires and werewolves and all this stuff, but I really didn't hear about the Hat Man.
I made that name up. And shadow people name, believe it or not.
Are you
I
the
wrote-
founder for real that started the whole Hat Man phenomenon?
Yeah, I really am.
Huh.
I am she.
Awesome.
So it's her fault. No, I was kidding.
Well, it's. I think the phenomenon was out there, but nobody put a name to it. Now it's kind of like
Right.
they now call it that, right, Heidi?
Apparently so, yeah, they do. And same with shadow people. I wrote my book in '97 on the shadow people, and it started getting circulated a couple years after that, and then got published. So the shadow people and the Hat Man, both of those names are something I put up on a website and asked people, have you seen these? And I gave different titles to each type. And I called head and shoulder shadow, which is a shadow being that looks like a man with his head directly connected to his shoulders with barely a neck to be seen. Shadow spiders, shadow cat, Hat Man shadow. I'd also put that out there. Shadow spheres, shadow streaks, shadow clouds. And almost immediately after I put the image up of the Hat Man shadow, is what I had termed him at the time, the emails started changing. And that's when I knew I was dealing with something much more sinister and much stranger and more dangerous than just shadow people. So I no longer call him Hat Man Shadow. I call him just the Hat Man.
Heidi, hold on. Did you actually see him yourself? You witnessed this yourself?
You know what? I have not seen that man, believe it or not. And I think that's where my confusion came in with calling him a shadow person. I was living with a college roommate. She and I were experiencing a lot of shadow people, even, dare I say, like alien, transparent looking things walking through our place. This one evening, I woke up to her screaming in absolute terror, as if I honestly thought I would find that she was murdered or something, or somebody was attacking her.
Right.
Wow.
I ran through her bedroom, and I don't think I've ever seen a person with such utter fear. She was cowered in a corner on the floor, just shaking uncontrollably, pointing where I'd come in, saying, the man, the man. And I'm thinking somebody broke in, because she had a door that exited out to our porch. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, where to go? And I'm looking around, and she could barely speak. And she finally, with her first words, she says, he disappeared when you opened the door. And that's when she went on to describe, and she drew that image that you show that has gone all over the world of the hat man with that flat gaucho brimmed hat. And the way that she described it to me, though she described it as having such detail with the suit and the watch, and hers had a goatee. But the way that he disappeared, I'd assumed it was another form that shadow people could take, because they were taking on so many different shapes and sizes. So I swear, this is so strange. When I put his image up on my website, my sister, she came over unannounced, and she is like, Heidi, I need to talk to you about something. And I'm like, oh, first I want to show you, I put some new stuff up on my website. And she's like, as she sits down, I really need to talk to you. I'm really upset. I hit my website, it opened up to the Hat Man, and she shrieks, oh my God, that's him. And I'm like, what? What's going on here? And that's when she described just a horrific encounter. Literally, when I had put his image up on my site, he was very responsive to what I was doing. She said she went downstairs to go open up her laundry, take her laundry out. And she said, literally, this extremely tall man just came out from over her dryer, probably, 8-10 feet tall, and just cowered over. She said, Heidi, I jumped up the stairs. I don't even recall hitting one, but she knocked over her daughter in the process now. And they both ran out of the house screaming. The really interesting story came when sometime later she car along, she looks in her rear view mirror, and there he is sitting solid, glowing red eyes, sitting in the backseat of her car in broad daylight. And I just, again, I had not experienced him. I did not know what it was exactly, how people were taking him in. And he was actually being described as a very solid entity versus these shadowy beings. And I'll tell you, I did not want to look any further into it, because the emails, this is a scenario. So I grew up in a haunted house. I'd seen UFOs. My website transformed from being on the topic of UFOs and aliens. And then when I announced shadow people, I went to shadow people, and then I put the Hat Man on there. My emails went from 100% to aliens, 100% to shadow people, to about 95% Hat Man, as far as emails are concerned. It's just, and it continues that way ever since. And it's been a crazy, scary phenomena. And the way that they go into such detail on him, he's not a wispy presence. He's not just this choking pressure on the chest. He is very, very aggressive.
Heidi, let me ask you this. In your research, obviously you've looked into this. Did you find that this Hat Man phenomenon goes back in history? I mean, you started this in 97. Has this been going on for hundreds of years? Maybe they didn't call it the Hat Man, but there's the same sort of
Yes, he seemed to show up around the times of when witches like to conjure up spells. 1700, 1600. I mean,
is that how far you dated it back to, about 1700?
You know what? I think I could go back even further. I'm trying to find the records on such things, but the descriptions that how they would describe this man was a man in a black cape riding a black horse. And they would describe a horse with red eyes even. So, and let me tell you, I've had stories that gives me chills of people saying they've seen this Hat Man riding a black horse. It's just absolutely terrifying. Native Americans, the whole shebang. They have a lot of different.
It's so funny when you talk about these things. You stumble. When Tony and I were at Contact in the Desert, remember we were sitting there watching the stars, waiting for the UFOs to come by, and we were talking about some of these different things. And that one girl saw the Hat Man.
Yeah,
she told us the story. It was in her room, went right by the light, and it's just like all of a sudden it comes up.
Well, yeah. I want to ask this, Heidi. That you say aggressive. We've heard a lot of people seeing it. What's the aggression? What is he, attacking? Does he hurt? Does he possess? What is the aggression?
A, B, C, D through Z. He's horrible. He is absolutely horrible.
Really? The
He
people that told
he
us didn't say
bites.
that.
Yeah.
No, see, people won't talk about that element of it, how far he goes. He goes as far as raping.
Mm.
He goes as far as threatening the souls of people. It goes so far as people are sleeping, they feel a hand reach into their chest and yank their soul out, drag them to the ceiling or the ground, wrestling with them, threatening, laughing, saying what he's going to do with them. I mean, it is a vicious battle with him. Absolutely.
Would the people just write you their account of what happened to them?
Thousands.
Really?
Thousands. I have thousands. And I was on a television show, I can't recall the name of it. And they asked me how many stories do you have about shadow people? I'm like, thousands and thousands. They dubbed me and said, Miss Hollis has researched dozens and dozens. I'm like, in a week?
Right. Wow.
Like, what, dozens and dozens, my foot.
That's amazing.
Now,
Yeah,
have you
it's
heard?
horrible.
Have you heard about, because with like ghosts and spirits, a lot of times people say, tell them to go to the light, to priests come in and exorcisms, and do the hat people show up once or twice? Do his thing, or is this a reoccurrence until they move? Until what? I mean, because I mean, that would be scary, especially if they're coming like every night. You're like, really, seriously?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, Hatman, it's interesting to me, the patterns that go person to person. Sometimes, yes, they may just happen to have caught him walking through their kitchen or walking through their wall. I'm an occupational therapist. My specialty is psychology. And I've had patients tell me, God forbid they Google me. I have patients tell me, I was watching television the other night and this man just popped up in a suit and walked straight through in front of my TV and walked straight out the door. So sometimes it's just these catching little glimpses that they have. Other times he's this freak that shows up throughout their lifetime. It amazes me always when somebody recalls being a toddler, seeing him and him coming on a nightly basis up and through their 20s or 30s or their entire time. And it just never seems to be that there's a set pattern if he's going to be a repeat offender or if he's going to be a glimpse. But I'll tell you this is really disturbing. A lot of people write me and they're like, I saw him when I was 10 years old. I'm 55 now, and every night I dread that he'll ever show up again.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how terrifying he is. And they also will like change their whole patterns. They can't sleep without the light. They feel like they have to do a certain ritual. It's just mind blowing.
Is it usually a reoccurring event? I mean, the few people that we've talked to that have had that experience, it was a one-time thing. They saw him, they remember it, and it was very calm. The times that the accounts we've heard. What is it with you? Do you hear most people see it over and over?
I'd say it's 50-50, honestly.
Really, half of them are repeat.
Yes.
Sightings. Interesting.
Yes, and they seem to oftentimes know when that's going to happen. That's another strange thing. They know when they're depressed. They know when they slip back into drinking or doing drugs, or there's a death in the family. He's going to come around. But then there's those favorite pets of his that he likes to keep coming around and staring, waiting. And there's this really interesting pattern where people are like, well, he's not so bad because I wasn't afraid of him. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So you're big and bold because, you didn't get scared. And they're like, maybe he's my guardian. Yeah, that's what he is. And I'm like, there'll come a time if he's coming around enough. He's looking for a way in. That's his whole goal. He's looking, he's waiting, he's studying you, and he's finding a way in. And eventually I get these people who've written me and they're just like, I used to think he was okay. And then he really scared me. And it's like, it gets to that. So I'm like, if he's coming around at any regularity, you gotta get rid of him.
So it sounds, in some ways, because I was going to ask you the 50% that actually see a reoccurrence. was there any similarities in each of their cases? Meaning, was it somebody that did pass away right after he showed up? You know, in that case, would he be the angel of death?
Oh, very good.
Yeah. Well, interesting enough, on my radio program, I had a near-death experiencer author come on my show, right? And, you know, everything's all love and light with them. And I'm like, come on now, all right, let's move into the dark, shall we? And so I asked, I'm like, okay, so what about the people who say it wasn't so pleasant? You know, I just wanted to hear it. And she's like, well, interesting enough, everybody sees this man in a suit and a hat. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So, yeah, at the end of their tunnel is Hat Man. In the beginning, when I was seeing this pattern that this was no shadow person, this guy was serious business. Every time I went to look into the topic, I would get calls from friends and family that's just like, Heidi, what are you working on? I can't sleep. So I back away, right? And I'm like, okay, I won't look. And then I would take a breather and then I go back into it. And people were writing me and they're asking me, who is this man? And oftentimes they would answer their own question with, he's the devil, isn't he?
Jeez.
Yeah.
He's awful formal, though. He's all dressed nice. He's got the pocket watch. He's got the top hat. Very formal for a scary entity, isn't he?
He does it for a reason. He wants people to recognize that he's everywhere. Why wouldn't he change it up?
Have you had this phenomenon in other countries, do you know?
Oh, gosh. I have so many from every corner.
Wow.
Every corner. And chopped up English, please help. I see man. Yes.
So people are reaching out to you because they're seeking help for this. Is that really what it feels like?
All over the globe. I have had priests contact me.
Really?
Priests. And one in particular, this is just absolutely mind-blowing. His whole campus is infested. And this is a campus to teach others to become priests, okay?
Wow.
That's all I'm going to say. It's that out of control. And it just rips my heart out. And you know, these little stinkers, these little kids, they are so good at writing emails. Let me just tell you, parents, because they're like, my parents think I'm crazy. Please help me. He won't leave me alone. And they always have to put in the first line how old they are, so I can't respond. You know, I'm like, I'm 10. Please help. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, it's just never ending. You know, I'll tell you a story. This just shows the lack of limits that the Hat Man has. I'm an occupational therapist. I get students that will come under me sometimes. I'll supervise. And wherever I work, you know, that people are just like, that's the lady that writes those books. And my students like, I saw something once, you know, like didn't say in detail what it was that I wrote my books on. And I said, oh, really? What did you see? And this happens all the time, by the way. She goes, well, I was about 3 years old and I'm playing and I see a fork on the floor and I look at the outlet and I look at the fork and I knew my mom told me don't shove anything in those outlets. She said, then all of a sudden, this extremely tall man, he was so tall, he had to be crouched over on the ceiling, bent all the way down to within inches of my face and said, looked at the fork, looked at the outlet and said, go ahead, stick it in.
Jeez.
He is insisting for a 3-year-old to kill herself. That's how low he is.
It's almost like Freddy Krueger-ish.
Exactly. I tell people that Jeepers Creepers, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
You know, Heidi, it's interesting that you say that the way that everybody has a story, because Tony and I talk about this a lot, how we've both just met different people that do different shows in the studio here or whatever, have nothing to do with our show. And they'll ask, you know, what's your show about? We'll say, well, it's, you know, paranormal things or whatever. And they're like, oh, yeah, I don't believe in any of that stuff. Well, there was this one time, almost inevitably, every single person has one little story, whether it be the Hat Man or an alien or something in the sky. They all have something. We'll come back. We'll pick it up right there when we get back. We'll take a super quick break, right, Tony?
We'll take a minute break.
We'll be back in 1 minute. This is Captain Ron and Tony Sweet on Truth Be Told.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to begin? Do you fear your job is in jeopardy, or is your business income reduction keeping you awake at night? We're in the best time in 25 years to make a fortune in real estate without using your money or credit, My name is Ron LeGrand, and I've taught 500,000 people to do just that and personally bought hundreds of houses myself. If you'll call 800-970-6155, 24 hours, and leave your information, I'll send you the first 500 callers my hot new CD, Foreclosure Fortunes, and my best-selling book to help you get started absolutely free. I'll show you how to build a six-figure income part-time with no previous experience and no license, even if you're a busy professional. Call 800-970-6155 24 hours and get my new book and CD free. That's 800-970-6155. Take your life back and make this your best year ever. Call 800-970-6155 now.
All right, we're back. I'm Tony Sweet. This is Captain Ron. We have Heidi Hollis here. We are talking about shadow people in the Hat Man. And Heidi, I want to ask you this, and for the people that are watching our YouTube channel, I'm going to explain what I'm going to throw up here. Is a picture actually of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and it's a picture of Satan in the background. It almost kind of reminds me of the Hat Man or shadow people because the way he lurks. And it sounds like
Lurks is a great word.
right,
The Hat Man lurks.
right. Have you thought of that before, of the similarities of the Garden of Gethsemane and then the Hat Man, how he does lurk around?
Well, yeah, the interesting pattern that I'm finding, so you can see from my book in the background, wrote a book on Jesus encounters. Jesus is no joke. And the encounters with Jesus are going up through the roof as well. So we've got Hat Man showing up and Jesus showing up. And it does seem to be a competition of sorts where the good is showing up to those closer on that side of the fence versus the negative showing up to the people on the other side of the fence. And then I have people that have witnessed both. So there does seem to be something is shaking up out there because these negative beings, it's almost as if they know their time is short. They're slipping up, they're acting up more. They're more in people's faces. And it absolutely blows my mind how many people are coming to the realization that these negative things are real. And this is even crazier when people write me, so I saw this thing, it scares me to death. It's terrorizing my whole family. By the way, it's another thing. He could terrorize a whole family. He doesn't just focus in on one. Sometimes he does. Sometimes it's everybody. And they'll say, I'm not into this religious stuff, but please help me. And I'm like, well, then get a shoe, a spatula, throw that at it because you need to get right.
This
with
is your defense
faith.
device, throw a shoe.
Yeah,
Spit in his
because-
face.
Well, the Jesus thing, though, I mean, there's been accounts of that. I mean, we all just know that there's millions of people that say they've seen Jesus, and that's been going on.
Yes.
There's accounts of that going through history.
But
But the Hat Man is a specific thing. It's very specific. And you're saying these people are recounting it in the same way with the brimmed hat, and he's always like just streaking in the back or whatever. It's always...
Not always. He
Oh.
doesn't always wear a hat. He doesn't.
Well, that would be more of a shadow person than not necessarily the Hat Man, right?
No, it's still him.
It's still him, but he
he's-
takes the hat off. I didn't know that.
He could take the hat off, and also he changes the hat. I've heard of fedoras. I've heard of gaucho. I've heard of top hats. That's probably his second favorite. Yeah, but when he's very distinctly a man, that's him. Shadow people, they're not as well formed. They can be somewhat kind of transparent and kind of looks like a cat, kind of looks like a spider, kind of looks like a head and shoulder shadow is what I call it, is when it kind of looks like a hulking man with no neck. Think of that Weinstein guy.
Think of Trump when he was chasing Hillary during that one debate.
You're
I
right.
got you.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, the shadow people, they're not as distinctive, and it was my mistake that when I came forward and I called him the Hat Man Shadow, and I kind of categorized him. But I've been trying to correct that ever since to let people know that he is not a shadow person. He is a very solid entity. Yes, he can sit in the shadows, but if you could make out a really clear, distinctive man shape, that is him.
That's interesting because I always thought he was, in fact, a shadow person.
No, he is not.
Interesting.
No, he is not. And but he will direct shadow people. He will direct the old hag. He will direct the Grim Reaper.
Tell us
looking
about the
guy.
old hag a little bit. How's that relate
Why'd you
to?
look at me?
Yeah, no offense.
What's going on over there?
Is that tie into this? Tell us about the old hag. People write you about that too.
Oh yes, it's kind of odd when people describe. And then this woman, he was standing next to this woman, the Hat Man, standing next to this woman, and he pointed at me, and she came close to me and like snarled, and I'm like, describe this little wretched looking lady, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's old hag. And apparently Hat Man is able to direct anything that's of the negative realm, like he's in control of it. um, Probably the more interesting question that I have concerning the Hat Man is when people say, is there more than one? Because sometimes he's clean shaven, sometimes he's got a goatee. Sometimes if you see his skin, you'll see his black eyes. Usually he has glowing red eyes or no eyes at all. So he's a little bit versatile, but he likes to make sure that people know he's the same entity that's showing up all over the place. And otherwise he'd change it up. But he wants to be recognized. He wants that respectful fear. And he has challenged me before, let me tell you. But I've been fortunate enough to not look at him when he's tried.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
But you really associate this with a demonic entity. You really feel this is pure evil. I mean, that's just where you stand on this, right?
He absolutely is. And
Wow.
for anybody who feels otherwise, good luck to you.
So they should be scared if they
that's-
see him.
But that's what I was saying. Even priests with their exorcisms, they've been doing these for thousands of years, or at least since the beginning of Christianity or
Catholicism.
Yeah. And so, has anybody ever tried to do an exorcism or try to, like from a psychic medium to a spiritual leader, try to, exclude him back to the living hell that he is from? I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that people out there that are listening to this and going, yes, I've experienced this. How do I get rid of them?
How you get rid of them is that's another juicy topic.
Let's do it.
All right, let's go there. So as far as he's concerned, it doesn't matter what's in your home. It doesn't matter what's coming after you, because this works in regards to aliens, so-called aliens, because they've been seen alongside of shadow people and Hat Man as well.
Mm-hmm.
I put that in my book, The Hat Man. And it's about protecting your living space, because they come at you like a coward in the middle of the night more often than not, because they can't handle the full human potential. People need to know that. And there's a name that expels him if he's coming right at you, or any of these negative things are coming right at you. And I think I was one of the first researchers to talk about this in regards to aliens. Everybody's like, oh, that chick is crazy. Yeah, right. The name of Jesus works.
The name of Jesus has worked with aliens too. Now, with the Hat Man specifically, or the old hag, I've heard you can invite Tony Sweet over to your house and ask him to tell you about stories from Kansas, and it'll never return. That usually clears it right
gets
up.
rid of him, yes.
I see.
But yeah, calling Jesus works for aliens as well.
It does. It works in their presence as well. Negative is negative. So it's like, why wouldn't that work against them? And a lot of people are like, I've said everything, for these things to get away. And I'm like, there was an old movie I saw with a vampire that grabbed a crucifix out of a guy's hand and said, you got to have faith for that to work. So you got to get your faith up, people. And they're like, oh, I don't believe in that. But you're looking into the eyes of something that is beyond the scope of this so-called reality. That right there should be evidence and proof to you enough to know that there's an opposing power, and you better hope there is anyways. And that's why I wrote a book that I'm going to be putting out really soon called The Other F Word for Faith. So theotherfword.com. And it's like, what are we losing you, Heidi? I've heard that question, this paranormal chick is going off into this. I'm like, look, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. I'm talking against demons, for crying out loud, if I didn't have faith. And, people seem ashamed to talk about having faith anymore. And I'm like, oh, I'm spiritual. Come on now. I'm a Christian. I don't go to church, but I know I'm a Christian, and I can say it without being ashamed. And it's okay. I don't Bible thump. I'm not spreading the holy water all over everybody, but I know where I stand. And having no doubts in your faith is important. And a lot of people have doubts and they think they shouldn't. I'm like, God made us flawed for a freaking reason. He knew that we're, the one area that we're not supposed to be flawed in is our faith. But God knows we're messed up. So it's okay. Have a little, a little questioning here and there. But, to get rid of these things, to keep them out of your home, I say bless your own home. Don't have somebody come in and bless it for you, because then you're just standing behind their faith. You need to stand behind your own home, get every corner and bless it. And I indicate the whole process. It's a little bit of a process, but you can do it. And it's not pulling a Native American sage feather unless you're Native American. It's just natural spring water or holy water, So in my book, The Hat Man, I went into great detail on how to get rid of these things. And that's what it's all about. It's just trying to keep people above water and facing these dark things, because I've been in that corner wondering what the heck is going on in my life, that I'm being approached by these dark things and feeling like I had no way out. I wasn't a Bible thumper or anything, and still am not. And I believed in God. I just wasn't all into it. And then I had, just before I put out my first book, The Secret War, that was the first book written on shadow people. I had a Jesus encounter, shook up my whole world, and gave me the strength to be doing what I'm doing today, to be honest. So,
well, that adds to the demonic, things that you're thinking about. The Hat Man being related to demonic elements,
yes.
is that you evoke Jesus, and then all of a sudden he reacts. So that makes it feel like it's in that same realm.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's this is the battle of all battles. People think that they're going to see something in the clouds and they're battling it out. It's like it's going on in the privacy of your own bedroom. It's time to realize that. Stop laughing at your friends for them talking about a really real nightmare they had last night, and just get down to it. And if you could even believe a hint of what they're talking about, it'll change your whole world. It'll change your whole perspective on this life and what it is that you need to do, and step forward and keep it real. And so many people are just like, how could you do this and have a sense of humor? I'm like, I could go around with a flashlight under my chin and scare the crap out of people all over. That's fun. But if I want people to actually ask curious questions, have an open mind, I treat it like any other topic. And I'm a cartoonist. I do a paranormal comic strip called The Outlanders. So I welcome people to check it out. I have 3.5 million readers so far. TheOutlanderscomic.com. And, keep things like you would with any other topic. Just take it head on. Have friends that you can speak to about this, and family. And for anybody that's limiting you or making you feel limited and being able to talk about this stuff, well, then that's a sad thing, because those people are creating rifts between you that you can't grow together in understanding this paranormal topic. It needs to change.
Agreed.
And, I cover a lot of topics in my books, and I tell people if I could do this in my sleep, I would. I'm like, it's about passion. You guys understand. You want people to understand this stuff and just get out there and just say, to heck with what people are thinking. Let's go.
What I didn't understand was that he's so evil. I always thought it'd be really cool to see the Hat Man. That's what I always thought. That'd be great. Now I've changed my mind on that. I think, right. Tony, I think we should try to avoid.
I think we will. Thank
goodness. Because once he gets his eyes on you, you really, if you find something of interest, watch out. That's a bad dude. That is a bad dude to make friends with.
Wow.
And I'll tell you this story. This is crazy. This just shows how responsive and how he's always listening. I'm a therapist. I worked in another facility. These physical therapists working there, they knew I wrote books on these odd topics. And so there's 2 of them left for the evening, and they like, Heidi, what do you write your books on? And I spoke probably 10 minutes on shadow people, Hat Man, aliens, and ghosts. And one of the therapists had to leave. The other one still needed to get a patient. I'm doing my paperwork. The therapist came down to bring the patient down to go walking in the parallel bars, and it's surrounded by mirrors. And probably a few moments after she brought him down, she's shrieking. I go over there, and the patient is leaning into the mirror saying, who's that man in the black suit speaking to me in another language? And he puts his ear up to it and he's like, oh my God, I don't know what he's saying. Do you know what he's saying? And we're like, what is going on here? I'm like, oh no. And I lean over and I say to the gentleman, I said, is he wearing a hat? He's like, I knew you could see him. He's right there. He's right behind you. That's just a short version of it. Just a crazy scenario. I'm like, I just got done speaking about him, and he shows up to one of our patients, and did the next day as well, right after speaking about him. He's so responsive. As soon as I put his image on my website, he goes after my sister. There's just no limits to him. He tries to intimidate, but I'll tell you this: I take it as a compliment every time he acts up or the shadow beings act up, because I know I'm really getting to them, and that's great news.
Well, good for you.
This is so interesting. I know our audience is going to love hearing this, especially for the Halloween season. But this is something that goes on all year long, and it sounds like it's been going on for at least hundreds of years. So,
Really.
And you say you have a new book coming out. What's the next book again?
It's called The Other F Word, just to help people, just figure out where their faith is at, have some fun. I'm a cartoonist, so it's got a lot of cartoon images in it, keeping it light, and it'll be okay. If people go to my main website, HeidiHollis.com, I also take emails, anything and everything out of the ordinary that people have been experiencing. Feel free to write me. I will get back to them. If I air it on my show, The Outlander, I'll get back to them. I'll talk to them about it. And I'm not a psychic or a guru. I'm just someone who has been there, seen that, experienced it, and found some answers and wrote about it. So, we could all do this. It's nothing that you have to sit alone with and trying to figure out on your own. And our word can be used in a court of law when we experience or witness something. So trust me, I believe you. I'm not going to classify you as being nuts, even though people like their first line in their emails. I don't do drugs and I don't drink anymore, or they don't do it at all. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to prove anything to me. It's like I can kind of spot the people that are not quite right. But again, I'm not there to judge. That's not my angle. There's a lot of people who have a scientific angle, and we need those people. That's not my angle.
That's the person to contact. You see the Hat Man, right? There, man.
This is Heidi.
Hat Man, shadow people, aliens, the whole shebang, ghosts. I covered all. Holy encounters. I love hearing about Jesus encounters. Please, I love lighter emails sometimes.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you do. Well, Heidi,
Yes.
we thank you so much. I mean, this has been so much fun. I know this is a heavy subject, but we, this is what Truth Be Told is all about, is bringing interesting people and interesting subjects. So thank you. You're going to have to come back when your next book comes out, please.
Oh, for sure. And if you guys are doing anything special, you're going to check out and investigate something cool, you got my number.
Yes. Got it. Yes. All right. We'll go to HeidiHollis.com.
I'm always popping over to LA, so it's all good.
Come in. Yeah, come and see us in studio. We'd love that.
Yeah, that'd be very cool.
Yeah, go to HeidiHollis.com, and this is Heidi Hollis. Now, your show's coming up next here in just an hour, 45 minutes, 30 minutes?
Yes.
What's going on your show today?
What's that?
What's going on in your show today? Who do you have on?
I have Robert Bingham. We're going to be talking about some of the UFOs that he's able to call down and communicate with. And I might read off an email or two from what it is people have been experiencing. And the top of most of my shows, I will read off an email or take calls. And let me tell you, stories you've never heard of before. All my shows are free on InceptionRadioNetwork.com. And I really enjoy doing the program.
Yeah,
cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, we loved having you on, so thank you so much. And everybody, thank you guys. Have a happy Halloween. We'll see you next week on Truth Be Told right here. I'm Tony Sweet.
Captain Ron.
And this is Heidi Hollis. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.